I don't want to lose my childlike innocence that I have left. I never want to lose it. I never want to feel like I'm losing my childlike innocence. One of the ways I attach myself, and not only attach, own up to it, and perhaps stay stagnant, is doing things outside of your character. A comfort zone. It reminds you not only to stay innately. It doesn't. It reminds you to not only stay present, but it makes you. It reminds you to be childlike. Like so many of adults forget that being a responsible adult means that you should give up playful things that take you places that you normally wouldn't go if not for imagination. And I feel like crying just about thinking about it because that's one of the only things that's pretty much kept me alive. Imagination, being imaginative. I get this all the time. I'm so imaginative. People use this word all the time, especially as I got old. I mean, especially when I was a kid. Wow, your mind is so imaginative. And I was that kid just but way before a lot of TV was dumbed down. A lot of stuff on TV that was dumbed down. But when I was growing up, it wasn't as dumbed down as it is now. A lot of stuff has changed. I think a lot of people can agree on that. A lot has changed, and that's expected, right? Um, Growing up, you had TV shows like Boy Meets World, um, That's So Raven, Sister Sister, um, A Different World, Lit in Living Color, Good Times. Well, that's not my generation, but I'm an old soul, and this is before we had internet in my house, and this is before I even had a phone. I since day one, since I was a baby, practically, I was voice acting on in the act slash acting. And as soon as I figured out my personality in school, I always was the type of person to uh, try to make people feel good and try to make them feel good by laughing. There's nothing like making people laugh. There's nothing like it. There's nothing in this world like making people laugh. I don't care how you do it. It just if you're a naturally funny person, you're gonna find ways to make people laugh. Um, and that somehow fills your cup, right? And I guess you could say that's one of my greatest joys ever. And I try not to let go of it. Up until high school, I lost it a little. A lot of things has happened since elementary, then middle school. It's almost like you living 8 lives in one lifetime. And I'm talking to people who are old souls or ancient souls, um, spirits who've been here. I'm speaking spirituality, spirits who've been here before. And when your mom tells you to do something, you already know what she meant by what she's trying to cover up in what she's saying by the age 6. But they try to act like you're not smart enough or you're not smart. So therefore, they're gonna make you feel like you're not smart. If you have I guess you could say, you know, an ignorant parent or a discouraging parent, or both, or all the things that aren't really the ideal parent, aside from putting clothes on your back, food on the table. I'm not talking about those type of stuff. I'm talking about character wise. They just do things that, you know, are damaging to the child, and only they don't want to own up to it or they don't see it. They'll even treat you like you don't know any better by the time you're 18 or 19. When you snap at somebody, they act like you're wrong. They never look at they never look at what happened. They look at what you did, and that always pissed me off. That always I would never not have a low tolerance for bullshit. I don't care what happens to me. I will never not have a low tolerance for bullshit, and that's because I believe in change. And I'm not talking about in myself. I'm talking about in anything and everything. Change is possible I believe in everything, and sometimes you can work on how to change and figure out why. Once you identify what it is, then you can work on it. But if one side is not trying to change, but you are, that's unfair, and that's what stirs up anger, and resentment toward that person or people. So I say that to say one one of the solutions for that is, you know, reminding yourself what you're naturally good at and not losing that childlike innocence. It's hilarious that everybody just it seems like everybody that's all everybody talks about when you get older is bills. It's almost like, okay, I'm talking about it, so therefore I should reward myself to dinner. Or no, go to Chuck E. Cheese. uh, you know, because there's nothing like a child's mind. There's nothing like a child's mind to me. It's not like I'm around kids 24/7. It's not that I'm around kids almost ever around this point in my life right now. But I have this job I may get, most likely get, because I qualify as a good component, and they're looking for the same qualities and qualifications that I present uh, in that particular organization. And they have a lot of resources that I can use personally, and that can help me with my stuff, my internal uh, works. Um, I mean, this the ongoing thing you hear is, oh, most comedians who become comedians are depressed or they come from a horrific background or childhood. That is true. And one of the best medicines is laughing. How you doing? One of the best medicines is laughing. Like, we all ain't perfect. We all gonna make mistakes. We gonna snap here, argue with your wife, whatever. But reminding yourself, oh, this is what solves this horrific situation I'm in. That one thing, and that's not ignoring self awareness. That's basically converting what could stop self awareness, which is self delusion. The most shallow people think that they're self aware, but they're not. Self aware people don't think that they're self aware. Self aware people think that they're just them. They don't. They don't they don't try to be preoccupied. This is just my opinion. They don't try to be preoccupied by if they made it to self-awareness. No, self-awareness is a lifelong thing. It's a journey, and it's if you're conscious of it, and it's if you own up to it, and it's if you're taking notes and making records of it. So when you're a self-aware person in a household with unself-aware people, somebody's arguing about the same thing they argued about yesterday, and it's about the most pointless stuff in the world, then that one thing that was arguing about goes to other stuff. And in my opinion, an argument isn't always it isn't always insult to insult. It's raising your value. But for me, it's like I know the type of people that would trigger me, so I try to stay away from them. I try to stay away from certain things that trigger, especially I'm bipolar, so I just try to stay away from things that trigger certain sides to me. And for those people who overuse labels, I'm not the type of person that you can do that with. I went to therapy most of my life. I stopped doing a lot of things I did and was doing in almost every way. And I feel more on a balanced level. I feel like um, whatever works for you, you have to keep in mind what that is. You know what I'm saying? Whatever works for you, you got to just keep in mind, just remind yourself, okay, this is working. Let me keep this up. Um, there's a plethora of things on why you do things and why you don't, and for people to just pretty much say, "Oh, you didn't go back to the acting audition because you just want to be lazy." And it's like, what kind of like deceptive person is that? They're trying to make you question your own truth. It's like you think I'm you. I'm not you. Because people project who they are, and people react to what is given to them. Law of attraction. Tony's not. Tony doesn't have an attitude. Just have an attitude. Tony is a person who's self-absorbed in terms of I absorb everything around me. I can't help it. I'm like a kid. I'm still like a kid, and I can't help it. And I refuse to ignore what's happening around me. Only I handle myself differently than I used to. Only it's one of the motives. One of the motives was try to listen to my conscience, um, and just try to be as. It's like being. It's almost like you don't know if you're controlling your emotions or your emotions are controlling you. And growing up, I was a very impulsive person. I'm surprised I don't have a baby mama. That's how impulsive I was. Um, but I was very, very impulsive. Um, on top of ADHD, wanting to do what I want to do. Um, and for those of you out there who watch the video and say, "Wow, me too, me too," I'm not speaking in this video because I'm talking about myself, just for you to hear my failures and accolades. I'm doing this because I wanna relate to people. You know, I can't relate to a lot of people close to me. I can't. You know, I can't. And you know, somebody might say, "Oh, is it because of you?" I'll say, even if it is what it is. Sometimes you don't connect with your own family, and I don't know how that happens, but to me, it always made me sad because I see so many families that has no emotional connection to their own family. So then they create one. Um, a buddy of mine once told me, I don't know what she is now, but she pretty much vanished from my life, practically like out of nowhere. We had a great relationship. It was starting out. We went to class. You know, for she was almost there for a year, I think. And she just had to stop going because she had to work. Um, she's Asian and she's not from here, so she's not really good with her English, but she's doing a great job as far as like last time I was, interacting with her when she took me out to eat, you know, um, and I don't know if she doesn't answer her phone, she doesn't reply to her text. I did we didn't It's not like we had like a rock relationship. We had a great relationship. She understood me, I understood her, and it was a really understanding relationship. No, I didn't know what went wrong. But if nothing went wrong and she's, you know, like, oh, I don't need this person in my life, I understand. But in other words, like, if you could think of it in a movie as a movie script, it doesn't make sense. But she told me on the phone once, Antonio, I can tell like you're very sad, and you're laughing and everything, like, your laughs and that's like a cognitive. No, she didn't say it like this. I'm not saying how she said. I'm saying the way I want you to understand. But she basically said, "I'm sad behind the laugh," and I said, some people. I just to say this. Some people can look through you by just knowing you for a little bit, and people you've been through around you all your life, regardless of how smart they are, intelligent, can never guess right most of the time on how you feel. And what you probably went through. It's almost like some people don't take they don't acknowledge like it's not like I'm this way for no reason or that is no purpose of it or cause it's you know. And I'm not saying for all those teenagers out there use this rage, resentment, or whatever you have inside or whatever's happening to you to do anything. I'm not saying that. I'm saying never be afraid to express yourself. I don't believe in holding it in because I've done that many times, and um, especially being bipolar. That's not. I mindfully tried to hold in. Like there were times where I mindfully tried to hold in how angry I was, and you can tell that I was like this, just like I'm trying to hold it because I don't want to hurt nobody, or I don't want to hurt myself, and I don't want to hurt anything that may have happened even more. But I have a very wide range of emotions, and they're very extreme. And I've always been told by the wrong people to fake it till you make it. And if you know me, you know that would never work. I don't know if it's right, but I damn sure know it's not. I damn sure know it's wrong. I'm just not built for that. And it has nothing to do with this is an excuse for me to be me. In a way, yeah, okay, but this is a courageous move. It's not everything is seen in one perspective. If someone perceived me a certain way because of how they interpret me, that's them. That's their filter. But what about my filter? How do I see myself? That's all that matters. End of story. In fact, your story isn't ending. That's if you wanted to add on to another chapter. But if you feel like you can write more chapters, then write more chapters. And let yourself live. Let yourself find yourself. Don't force yourself to find yourself. Don't force yourself to find yourself. You can have a little push to find yourself, but don't force yourself to become what you're not. Long enough for you to forget who you were. But I'm gonna end this video at the 20-minute mark and upload it, and I'm gonna walk around and observe it. Um, you know, there was a quote that said, "Observe without judgment," and you learn a lot just by doing that. Um, was when you bring up, like for example, if you bring up something like, "I like this artist," and someone says, "Oh, they're this," and it's like you're saying it's the way they say it though. It's always how a person says it. Either you're saying it to discredit the fact that they're good artists, or you're saying it because you're preoccupied by what they've done or might be. I'm not. I'm like that as it is. Like nobody wants to be reminded of the fucked up shit they did all the time. That's not healthy. Especially if it's not even true. If it's just a belief and you're walking around like saying I think this, and then acting like it's true. It's one thing to say I believe versus oh no, I think it's true. Like no, it's not true. You don't even have evidence of what you're talking about. You just have connections. You don't have evidence. You have biased connections. You have a biased way of looking at it. I Not to brag, but I try. This is how I think in my mind most of the time. I try to keep an open mind. You know, when something happens to like in a situation where like a tragedy happened and they say like on the news some black guy robbed a store. I try to keep an open mind because me knowing the system and me being black and me knowing the history of what they've done to black people as far as the media and the system, I try to keep an open mind. In one, a lot of time they lie. Two, expect the revolution not to be televised. So like I have a extreme large range of perspectives. It's 20 minutes now, but I have a extreme large range of perspectives, and you know, I don't know. I guess you could say that's my. I feel like I have to be fair by saying I don't know, but maybe this versus I don't know, so I'm gonna make some shit up. And sometimes a toxic family member does that. Say you do it once or twice, especially around that person, they don't like it, or they don't like it, or they didn't see it. I know I've done it before, but I don't do it consistently. Hell, I don't even talk about them. I just have it all inside because I like to. I got to a point where in my spiritual journey that I just observe and try not to judge. I try my best not to judge people in small forms. I mean, I try my best. And you're like, wow, how can you do that? And you're a comedian and all that stuff. I'm like, I'm not just a comedian. I'm a poet. I'm a writer. I'm a actor. I'm a voice actor. I'm a philosopher. I would call myself a scientist, but I guess you could say I think scientifically as well. I like to dissect anything and everything, especially when I like it. I like to dissect people's words when they talk to me. I'm like, okay, did you mean this when you said that? I'm very scientific in how I think and perceive people when they talk. I like to dissect it in very small pieces and then come up with a broader conclusion. Um, but ironically, a tutor I had, um, I only had her one day, but they have tutors every different week, and she told me that I should look into being into something like in science, if I decide to go to college, because she hated science in high school, and then she figured out why she became a scientist in the first place, which was one of the reasons why she became a scientist was once you know how things work and why you can one thing and why once you know how one thing works and why you'll be able to figure out everything else. And I'll never forget what she said. She was very, very attractive. I definitely won't forget how she looked. But I take that to heart. I guess you could say, growing up, I took everything to heart. Uh, I took everything to heart. I took everything to heart, and later on, I figured out how to